Hi, everybody. Jay Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming out. Before I forget, everybody who has a cell phone, please put it on silent so as not to interrupt.
Is that
Bob?
the same as turning off the ringer?
Yes. Yeah, the same thing, just so we don't hear it making noises. The good news is we have Bob here to tell us about his new book that we're really excited about. The bad news is we were supposed to receive extra books yesterday, and we have precisely 0 in the store right now, which means he sold a lot because we've had several shipments already.
200 out of 300.
Yeah. So what we'd like to propose is if anybody here would like to buy a book today, we can take a pre-order. Let us know if you want it signed or not signed, and then Bob, once we get them on his own time, he'll sign them. We'll call you, and you can get your book that way. So sorry for that little inconvenience. As you all know, Bob has already written 2 other biographies and half of another, or however.
3 others.
Well, Premashram's a little.
I'm talking about boys as kind of half. Yeah. So boys, also Slave of Love, which is about William Donkin, and Divine Drama about Charles Purdom. So first woman, we're going to hear about her. Artist with Baba. I'm very excited that he's done the work for us to learn more about her, because she's always been an intriguing character for me. So if anybody needs snacks or the bathroom, it's best if you can go around the bookcase and not in front of Bob who's being videotaped. I think that's about it. Healthy welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Laura. I have a few thank yous, Laura and Sheila. The bookstore's been so supportive over the last 12 years. Carrier Foundation, Andy, Dixon and Dee, and Tony. I mean, these books don't come out. It's so many people involved, and the people that buy the books helps do more books. So I really appreciate it. It wouldn't happen without you. Anyway, it's interesting what you said about. It's the first woman that I won't say the word tackled, but it's the first. And I think Jane knew Anita. I never met Anita. How many people in the room met Anita? I'm sure a few, right? Yeah. And she kind of coached me a little bit when I was inclined to try that. And Jane spent the 8 months, was it, in 1973 near Paris as an au pair, and most of her weekends were with Anita and Roger. So anyway, welcome to the journey with Mir Baba and Anita de Caro Villard. The book, in Anita's own words, her journey from the personal to the impersonal to the sacred. I think that it comes through in the book. It's between the lines, her challenges in life, and she started off very personal with Baba, as we all know, right? And the honeymoon phase for the Westerners was certainly the 1930s. I mean, Baba was spoiling everybody, but he did warn them: when I take you to Mehrabad, you're going to eat dust. That's all you're going to have. So he was and yet he transitioned them with the ashram in Nasik, and that was, it actually had toilets, and that was, 1936, the end of 1936. Anyway, just starting off, I'll try to paint a picture of the personal. A number of people have already purchased the book and read it, so. Anita was born in Manhattan in 1909. Already there's a contradiction in 1909. We're not absolutely sure that's her real birthday. Okay? There is a possibility she was born in 1905. So that's another mystery that I hope to solve before another printing. She came into Princess Norina Machiavelli as a teenager. Here and there in the Mayor Baba Anita story, mention will be made of small points not published in the book, in this talk. How did Norina and Anita get together? I have no idea, but I've heard that her mother, Jacqueline, served as Norina's dresser in The Miracle on Broadway. But without the proof, I didn't get it in the book. I don't know if I'll ever get the proof, but that was, Anita would have been 14 in 1921, and that was the start of her, a baby, yeah. But she started her life with Norina Machiavelli, who had not met Baba, of course, at that point. So, anyway, here and there, these not published in the book anecdotes might enter in. And Norina began mentoring Anita and eventually financed her first trip to Europe. And that was in 1931, before Baba came to the West. And she had to cut her trip overseas short, which was mainly go and see the museums in Europe, soak up the culture. This was the directive from Norina to Anita, right? But she had to cut that trip short because of her mother's illness, Jacqueline. Her mom was sick, so she came home. And shortly after she got home to look after Mother, she got a phone call from Norina, and it was very emotional, and Norina was crying on the telephone. She's finally met this wonderful man, and this was a few days, only 2 or 3 days before Anita met Baba. So Norina, when he came to Harmon, 1931, and Norina met first, and then 2 days later, Anita came with Norina to meet Baba. So that was the transition, and several days after that, Elizabeth. So these 3 women were constantly supportive of each other, especially Norina and Elizabeth for Anita. If Anita wasn't listening to Baba, Norina was writing to her and saying, "You have to listen to Baba," you know. And so this went on for decades. So, and the book is rich in correspondence thanks to the Trust Archives in India and Meredith Klein. I mean, like Dixon, and Meredith was just there all the time for me in putting this book together. I'm very appreciative. Anyway, emotionally moved through Norina's telephone call, Anita traveled from Harmon on November 11th, 1931. And it's interesting that it's Remembrance Day in Canada, and I think Veterans Day in the U.S., because on many occasions, Anita would remind Baba when she wrote him from year to year that it was a such and such anniversary. I think she always wrote him on November 11th, right? So, nice things about Andy would recognize is getting proofs. You don't have to thumb through the getting proofs of your books before they go on the press. So I'll just read the description, which many of us have heard already, but I love hearing it from Anita on her first meeting with Baba in Harmon. Anita vividly describes her first encounter with Mayor Baba at the house in Harmon. "I had been brought up Catholic. Knowing I was about to see him, all of a sudden I was frightened. I thought, if this is such a great religious man, how am I to behave? How am I can shake hands with him? The only thing to do is kneel. I'll make the sign of the cross and say, bless me, Father, and kiss his hand. I mean, this is all her Catholic upbringing, right? She suddenly faced the moment. My heart was pounding with fear. The door opened, and Baba was seated Persian fashion, with his legs crossed under him. I looked at him and went into peals of laughter. Can you imagine? I laughed and threw myself on him. Can you imagine? No wonder he loved Anita right off. My heaven, it's you, I cried. And that's the title of Dot Pierpoint's wonderful hardcover book about Harmon and Baba. You made me go through all this masquerading and fear when it's you. It's incredible. And I laughed and laughed. Baba opened up his arms. I was absolutely enraptured and felt a tremendous sense of joy. And we all know our close moments with Baba as individuals, that those tremendous senses of joy when they come are such blessings. My whole being felt as if I was in a furnace. Words cannot describe the encounter. It was like meeting someone I always knew, as though I had come to my real home. I experienced a great beauty and great joy. A few days after, Elizabeth Patterson would meet Baba, and all three women, Norina, Anita, and Elizabeth, would remain steadfast in their love for Baba for the rest of their lives. Anita would bring her paints and brushes for 2 private sittings with Baba, and tried her best to paint his portrait. The intimacy between Baba and Anita and Norina, is reflected in these words that the women wrote on January 15th, 1932. This would have been after Baba left the U.S. and Norina and Anita were together one night. And they wrote a joint letter to Baba, which is lovely. Just to picture them probably sitting on the bed together. Oh, Baba, we begin to understand what your creation is to us now. Its ultimate outcome means growth, understanding, and resurrection. When that divine wave of love will permeate in us, its uninterrupted song, we will live in you, as in its way lies our whole life, as the life whose emperor is you. We talk only of you. We kneel to this dear subject. This dear subject has become our temple. We both lay our hearts on your heart. A little like we feel when we bow down at Baba's bed at Baba's house, I'm sure. Anyway. Baba's personal attention to Anita's needs are reflected in his visit to Anita's ailing mother, where he spent time at her bedside. Later, this is going back for a moment to 1931. Later in July 1932, Anita visits Harmon on her own and writes to Baba, who was aboard the ship, traveling back to India after the 1932 visit. And this again is Anita's, imagine going up to Harmon on her, she didn't go with anyone. Somehow she got up probably by train, and she just, this is her description of what happened when she got there. I ran through the woods, sang until my heart ached, and rode on the river. The 3 days were like eternity. I was so happy and saw you so close all the time. You will soon be in Italy, Baba dear. I wish I could be with you. When will we all be together again? Don't forget me ever, my beautiful father. It's like she went back to soak up the atmosphere, and Jane and I have been to Portofino 3 times now, I think, and Baba's atmosphere is still there after, since 1933. Beautiful there that way. So we understood what she was talking about. Baba and a group, she was referring to that first trip that Baba made to Italy in 1932, and she was not invited to go to that. Baba and a group of Westerners traveled to Santa Margherita in late July 1932, staying there at Villa Fiorenza until mid-August. Anita remains in New York, again tending her ailing mother, who will die 2 months later, on October 5th, 1932. In early 1933, Anita writes of her mother's passing. Now you have to understand that Baba visited her mother at her bedside, and she kept a photograph of Baba on her pillow. Anita didn't put it there. Her mother wanted it to be there. My mother's death was so beautiful. I've tried so hard for a bit of happiness, and you are so very far away. And I seem to have lost all that I gained. Why? What is it that I must learn? What is it that I must learn? There's many people here that have been with Baba 50 years, and we're still working on learning, right? We're still working on it. Anyway. Baba responds to Anita from aboard ship on his return to India. He's returning to India, but he wrote the most beautiful telegram from on the ship, and he must have somehow got it to her. We have a copy of that thing. Baba and his group are still en route to India, sailing from Colombo to Madras. On January 11th, while still on board, Baba writes to Anita. Now, many of these letters have Baba's signature at the end. So somebody else might have taken Baba's dictation, but he put his signature to Anita. There's so many of them, and eventually he stopped using his signature on correspondence. Quoting Baba's letter, nothing pleases me more than love and your sweet words full of love for your darling daddy. They had a thing where she was the child and he was the father. They are ever my delight. If you go on loving me like that, wherever you are and whatever circumstances, you will surely overcome all other obstacles and feel happy under all conditions. Your deep feelings and love for me bring you so much nearer to me every day. And there's the signature at the end of it, which I hope, I had to get signatures in the book just because I remember one letter, and for some reason, I think I was still in junior high school when the Aqua ink came out, the India ink. We all probably had it with fountain pens. And one of Baba's letters, he wrote, whoever wrote it used Aqua ink, and he signed his signature in that. And I had a fascination with that Aqua ink when it came out in Canada. I'm sure you had it here, but it wasn't dark, and it was a beautiful. It might have been my early connection to Baba, for all I know. The intimacy between Baba, Anita, and Narina is reflected in the words that the women wrote. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm back on. I didn't turn my page. This talk on Here Lies My Heart is probably moving a little slow. Perhaps with good reason. These early years are so important in Anita's personal relationship with Baba. All the best is yet to come. Portofino. This is, we're going into the Portofino phase, which you've read accounts in other books. It was so important to those early Westerners to spend a month with Baba there, and some sort of unbelievable atmosphere. Unbelievable. Anita, who sends a gift to Baba, expresses her excitement about the planned Portofino holiday in a March 13th letter. This scarf is for you to wear with my love. These are intimate letters to Baba. I mean, it's just, don't give it away until you have worn it a while, as I would like to see it on you. Of course she would. If you like, give it away. Please make sure it's a Norina or Elizabeth. It's just that close connection with these women. You've seen the picture in the garden taken in 1932 at Harmon. This was, that connection is just, and I didn't know that till I did this book. I didn't, with the letters that came from the Trust Archives and between Norina and Anita, between Elizabeth and Anita, and between Elizabeth and Norina, and it was much love from your exiled child, Anita. It was so cute. Yeah, and he was, as Baba early said, Anita was one of his clowns, and he appreciated that because his work was often heavy, right? Oh dear, in reviewing the manuscript pages, I just noticed how beautiful the page 40 group is of Baba and the Westerners. It is, these photos are, the intimacy of, during the July stay at Villa Altichiara, Baba and a small group make a side trip to Rome. Baba is determined to find a reproduction of the El Greco famous painting, The Crucifixion. This is, again, they had given up looking in Rome, and Baba said, no, I'm not going back to the villa without getting this gift for Norina. He was already planning her October birthday party, because she didn't get it until then. I don't think she even knew about it, but he wanted to get the reproduction of the El Greco to give her in London when they celebrated her birthday. The drama on the rocky cliffs of Portofino occurs days after Baba's return from Rome. That was one of the times that after that, and we've all heard the episode, which is titled Cliffhanger. I know it's a cliche, but I couldn't help it to start the book because it was so, it was quite dramatic, and somebody could have died in that encounter, But Baba served people wine, when the Westerners wine when they came back. Told them it was celebrating the fact that physical drama took Sanskarias away, took them through maybe years and years with Baba, just in a dramatic, scary fashion, for sure. Today, Baba's atmosphere in Portofino lingers. We are all getting just a little bit older, and world travel is getting more difficult. We should never forget what Baba said about the Ligurian coast. He said, the Ligurian coast, he did not specifically say Portofino, but he said somewhere on the Ligurian coast is the perfect place for an ashram for Easterners and Westerners. And we felt, Jane and I, when we were there, we felt we were in an ashram. It was just, of course, we just like to look at the water and the birds and drink a little wine and interact with the local people. We don't go to galleries. We don't do museums. We do people, And it was sweet, And he actually had a formal meeting several years later in Cannes where he called everybody to order to talk about that ashram. And he to talk about the ashram on the Ligurian coast. The other three sites are identified. What are they, Jane? Venice.
Assisi.
And Avila.
Avila.
And
on the Ligurian coast.
Right. So if Jane and I can't travel anymore, please go over and look for a fixer-upper villa. You never know. You never know what's gonna come. The magic of 1933 with Baba did not end on the Italian coast. Later in October 1933, Baba hosted a birthday party for Anita at Hygeia House in London. At the party, Baba gifted the El Greco reproduction of the Crucifixion to Anita. Today, this reproduction is housed in the Mayor Spiritual Center archives. And I was lucky enough to see it, and thanks to Roz. And when I went over to Dixon photographed Anita's painting of Baba at the archives, and Anita even made fun of the painting, right? So it's pretty sort of, her words are in the book about the painting. But when I stood over that painting, there was something magic about it, I'll tell you. You don't even look at the maybe elementary kind of sketch, painting that she did. Something just hit me about because he sat personally, Baba sat personally for that painting. He never did it again. He didn't do it for the portrait in Baba's house. That was a photograph. He worked, the artist worked from a photograph. So this was the one and only time. And there's magic in that painting. I hope it's maybe on display at Baba's house sometime again, even for a short period. Baba lovers. Baba leaves London 3 days after Anita's party. Anita travels with the group as far as Paris to return to Zurich from there. Anita is living in the Walter and Hetty Merton's house and studying art in Zurich at this time. And she's having a hell of a time living in that house, which is in the book. Baba slowly returns to India, traveling through Avila, Spain, before boarding a ship in Marseille, bound for Bombay. Anita's letters to Baba increase with her physical separation, and Baba remains attentive to her, writing to Anita while still at sea on November 6th. My darling child, this is only to tell you how I love you and miss you and want you to be with me. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Meanwhile, don't be sad. Remember all I told you and be loving me more and more and more and more. We still say these words today. I am always with you, all my love.
We've heard so many different letters over the years from Baba, but I don't think I've ever heard
The intimacy.
This is just to tell you that I love you.
Yeah. The intimacy.
You know, information being conveyed, or so that's really quite lovely.
And this was the 30s. You know, you could write a book about the 1930s alone and the Westerners and their relationship with Baba, because he was writing to almost everybody the same way he was writing to Anita. He was to Elizabeth, Norina. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anita writes back to Baba on November 11th. That's the anniversary date of meeting him. While Baba is still at sea approaching Bombay. My dearest darling. She feels free to do that. My dearest darling. 2 years today that I saw you for the first time. I can't believe that I existed before that. Your letters from Spain made me so happy. Letters with an S. I know Barcelona. She had been there in 31. And you brought it all back so vividly. I am happy you love that city. I want so much to see it with you. I feel sad because of my smallness. Baba, help me worthy of your love. Help to make me worthy of your love. Sweetheart. I make, right about now in the manuscript, and again, these are the wonderful things that came from the Trust Archives. the photograph of the kangaroo, and Baba and Norina saying to Baba, "This is the relationship I want with you." And there's a baby kangaroo in the pouch of Mama Kangaroo. I mean, who wouldn't want that relationship with Baba, right? The exchange of letters continues. That's on page 60, by the way, the kangaroo picture. The exchange of letters continues through the mid-1930s, with Anita expressing her continuing yearning to be with Baba, and the trials she faces living in the Mertens' home. In early 1934, Anita expresses anguish in a number of her letters to Baba. In writing back to her, Baba directs her to be patient and obey his wishes. In June and July 1934, Baba is back in London, Paris, and Switzerland, where Anita is reunited with him. The honeymoon continues for Baba's Western lovers. Baba again returns to India in early August. Reliving the magic of Italy with Baba, Anita travels to Venice and Portofino later in August. She writes to Baba on August 20th. It brought back all last year, seeing Portofino again. Oh, darling, it made me miserable to be there and not know that you were there. I'm sure she felt his presence, although she yearned for his physical presence to be there for sure. Later in September, Baba responds to Anita. Now this is a little bit of chastisement from Baba. I loved it when I saw it, because she had told Baba that she's going to start a group, right, in Zurich. And she went to Portofino without asking his permission, because she needed so badly to get back there. And this is 34, she goes again in 35. The Portofino, Baba says, the Portofino question is already settled, since you have already been there with that dear friend of yours, Elsie. Stay there as long as you can manage. The group idea is indeed very nice for Switzerland, but who manages it now in your absence? Exclamation mark. She should have asked her permission, his permission to go, but anyway. Baba often signs his letters to Anita with his personal signature, a personal touch that would disappear in the later years. After an extensive trip to Europe and the United States in November and December 1934, Baba returns to India in early January 1935. In mid-May 1935, Anita again resurrects her love in a May 15th letter to Baba. I often dream of Portofino. She can't get it out of her mind, right? It's so cute. Will you ever again be in such a glorious time? Will we ever again be in such a glorious time? In late May, Anita is already planning a June trip to the Italian coastal resort. With a woman friend, she writes to Baba, "Try, darling, to help me, only if it is your will and desire." I think she got the point from the other letter. I should like to be in Portofino for a holiday. Later, Anita writes to Baba from the town. I love it here. I see and feel you everywhere. I see and feel you everywhere. If I have any advice, go. If you can go, go. Baba, on occasion, directs Anita away from her own personal desires, writing to her about her holiday trip and her efforts to start the Baba group, which I've already covered. But Norina and Elizabeth return. They go the month after Anita is there with her friend. They also go. And that's the book jacket background cover. Either Norina or Elizabeth took that from the Splendide Hotel. And that was in 1935. So, in April 1936, I jump ahead quite frequently because it's trying to squeeze everything into a certain amount of time. And anybody can put their hands up if they have questions that they think they might forget later, which I know the feeling at 79 years old. In April 1936, Anita has already met Roger Viard at Atelier 17, the artist's workshop studio in Paris. She writes to Baba that she has received a very respectable offer from a nice man. That can mean anything. I have no idea what it means. It upsets me so because I wonder whether you are trying to get rid of me. She's so cute. She's so cute. But her and Roger are already seeing each other, at least at the workshop, probably for a wine afterwards. I wouldn't be surprised. London, November 1936. Baba again travels to Europe. On November 7th, Baba visits Zurich and meets with Anita. He instructs her to move to Paris for 3 months, to continue her art studies there and wait there to receive Baba's call to India. How does she feel about that, I wonder, at this point? You know, Baba's call to India. The next month, the Westerners are going to India, but Anita's not one of them. In December of 36, a number of Westerner followers travel to India to be with Baba, but Anita is not included in the group. To soften Anita's disappointment, both Norina and Elizabeth, who are part of the Western group in India, send supportive letters to Anita. Early in 1937, Elizabeth writes to her, "Everything which happens, happens for the best. Take it as a blessing or take it as a test." And I think that Elizabeth said that to a lot of people over the years, I'm sure. Probably some in this room. Anita and other close Western followers are included in a planned second wave of lovers invited to India, but that plan is suddenly canceled. On May 14, 1937, Elizabeth writes Anita of a new plan of having Westerners, including Anita, thank goodness, spend an extended holiday with Baba in Cannes later that year. How happy she must have felt. This is going to be 10, 11 weeks in Cannes. Not just 4 weeks in Portofino. 10 or 11, this is what Baba's given to the Westerners. And a steady stream of visitors that weren't even staying with him in Cannes, coming in the door every day from parts of Europe. So the Westerners immediately get a brief note from Baba, who is sailing to France already. Selfless service, says Baba. He's probably teeing up for behavior at Cannes, I'm sure. Selfless service and love are twin divine qualities. This is Baba's note. Only the one who loves can serve. Serve your beloved God, man, and you are serving your own self in every other self. The thing about Baba, it's been 50 plus years for me. I've lost count, but you learn something. You were always learning with Baba, and he always he emphasizes the others so many times. And I went in the barn probably just 3 or 4 months ago, and others in the 7 Sahavas sayings is mentioned 7 times. Others. It's hard. It can be hard serving others, but it's very important. Then you forget about yourself, according to Bob. Serve your beloved God, man, and you are serving your own self and every other self. Such service is for your own spiritual benefit. But this service must be spontaneous, willing. These are Baba's strong words. And maybe the biggest one that, again, in recent months or years, I've wholehearted. Baba uses that. How often did he use wholeheartedly, unconditional, and not expecting any reward? This was Baba writing just before he gets to Khan, to his Western lovers who are going to live with him for 2 months. The body suffers and the mind is tormented, but the spirit of the selfless service of the server of the master experiences the bliss of satisfaction. This bliss of satisfaction. Chapter 7 follows in the book, The Magic of Khan. Indeed, the magic of Khan. The get-togethers begins on August 13th, 1937. The Sahavas on the coast of France reflects really in many ways the final honeymoon days of the 1930s. You know, when Baba departs from the Westerners, it's going to be 15 years. 15 years. And for these Westerners between 1931 and 1937, they've had so many opportunities to be with Baba personally. 15 years are coming, including the Second World War. 1 week after the start of the Sahavas getting back to Khan, Anita's suitor, Roger, arrives from Paris. Now you've got to picture this, because when I read it in the trust, one of the trust letters, Roger actually took Baba out for a drive in the car, and I didn't hear about anybody else being with him. For a little drive down the windy coast of the Mediterranean to ask him for his permission to marry Anita. Can you just picture it? Baba and Roger. Baba out for a drive along the winding coastal road, and he asked Baba's permission to marry Anita. Baba, in giving his permission to this international tennis player, by the way, he played in the Davis Cup back in the day, Roger did, says to Anita's future husband, whether you win or lose, referring to his tennis playing, it is immaterial because you are winning my love. 3 days later, Roger leaves to return to Paris. Just a very short window, right? Drove down from Paris with a friend, took Baba out for a ride. Could I marry Anita? And Baba says, 3 days later, Roger goes back to Paris, and on his departure says to Baba, at first I loved you because of Anita. He heard all about Baba from Anita, I'm sure, right from day one in 1936 when they met in Paris. But now I love Anita because of you. So the transformation in Roger was beautiful to read. The Westerners would remain with Baba an unbelievable 11 weeks. Oh, 11 weeks. It's amazing. 2 months into their stay, Dr. William Donkin. Whenever I can get William in any book, I see his Slave of Love over there. And my relationship with Sherry, our books, goes back, to I think I remember the book talk in the old building, right, Laura? And that was I think that was 12 wonderful years. Anyway, Dr. William Donkin arrives, just taking leave of his medical studies in London to come down to have a little stay with Baba. And this is, again, Baba's individual attention. If you read A Slave of Love, you can't help but feel if you read Purdam's book, you can't help but feel this. Baba's given these people unbelievable attention, personal attention. I can't, and even working on the books, I would tear up at times because of that, Anyway, he says to William, who comes to Baba to see him October 7th, try to be happy under all conditions. There is nothing but bliss. It is everywhere, love divine. Misery exists in the minds of priests who preach heaven and hell. In reality, there is no hell. No God ever created hell. And to hell with the God who created hell. Explanation mark. Only Baba could say that. I could just imagine him saying it to William. What intimacy between them. What intimacy. I love all. Love the heart. But damn be the mind. Mananash, right? Yeah. He's already talking about Mananash. I don't know if I'll ever get there. Not this life, probably. It is this mind that creates heaven and hell, said Baba to William, which I thought was very sweet. Anybody have any questions? Amen.
Anita was sitting on the floor in a chair.
I think he was on a divan, like a low divan, I'm just guessing, with his legs crossed under him, by the sound of it. So she literally fell in his lap, and that became the basis for their relationship all through the 30s, He needed her to be light. He needed her to lighten up the crowd. If he was given discourses, how Baba says, the alligator club at the barn, right? I mean, he needed that. He needed some levity, that's for sure, I'm sure. Baba leaves Cannes for Marseille on November 2nd. Later sailing to India, taking with him Norina, Kitty, and Ranov. No Anita. Sensing Anita's disappointment at not being included in the group of Western women going to India, Baba writes to her in mid-December. In mid-December. He's busy. He's writing everybody. Baba's writing everybody. Chuchula, beloved, be so as if you were still in the villa, Caldana. Light, gay, your real self. Not sad, not dull, not indifferent. He's directing her to be, this person that he put her earlier in the Mertens house, and it was she literally couldn't stand it there. We hear about Walter, we hear about Hetty, but what was going on was tricky. It was tricky, and I don't even know what was going on. But she had to keep the kids happy. Anna Katerina. And Walter and Hetty were at times at loggerheads. So, the importance of Cannes in the lives of Baba's Western lovers can never be overstated. For most of them, as I said before, 15 years would pass before they would again be in Baba's physical presence. That's a long wait after those honeymoon years of the 30s. Beginning in 1938, written correspondence would become extremely important between Mir Baba and his Western lovers. On March 30th, 1938, Baba writes a tender note to Anita and Roger, from Panchgani. Another favorite place to go to if you're able. Thank God Jane and I went there. And it was beautiful in Panchgani. You can feel Baba there too. This is March 20th, 1938, and Baba writing to Anita and Roger. It is a task of deep love and selfless devotion between you two, both of you, to bridge over the present situation in your lives. You know, Adolf Hitler is knocking on the door already of France. He really is. I can in you see the struggle, and I will help that you come out of it real and pure. If you give into me your lives as my own, and that has to be realized in you both through selfless practice within and your external lives. And these guys were busy with everybody. Marc Chagall, you know, Picasso, as I said in the book, you know, and thank Norman Reuter, who was our contact in Paris when we went. Norman had dinner with Anita a lot, and one of the things she joked about was Picasso's wives crying on her shoulder. You know, this is who they ran with. Henry Miller, the novelist. I mean, she illustrated Black Spring in one of his first early, small, very small novels. Anita's drawings are in that book. So they were buddies, right? Baba closes. Help one another. Unselfish, unself-concerned in effort and result. How often have we heard, do your best, I'll do the rest. Do your best. The Second World War came suddenly. It came suddenly, but as I said, Germany was knocking on the border of France. It's the overall war, the spreading war is looming. Baba stays close to Mehrabad, overseeing expansion of the retreat building in 1938. That's when the second story went up. That's when the Samadhi was finished. 1938. He was making room for the Westerners to stay in the retreat building, that second story. It wasn't for him. And traveling to nearby Bangalore and Mahabaleshwar. This was Baba in 1938. In January 1939, Anita writes Baba, "Darling, I miss you so very much. You live in my heart so intensely. Don't forget me." This is on the, we're there, you know, they're going to have a hard, tough time through the war years. Anita and Roger finally marry on April 25th, 1939. And I think they wanted a big wedding, but there was a lot of complication. Roger had to get divorced. He had a wife, and Roger's parents were not happy about Anita, because they were a Catholic family, and they wanted her to stay with the woman he divorced. There were no children. The next day after the marriage, Anita writes to Baba, and this is where Anita is living. Jane and I went to the front door. It's just a block from the Seine, right in the Latin Quarter. She lived there through the 30s, right up until the late 50s, before they moved to their other house. This is her note to Baba from, "Yesterday morning, Roger and I were quietly married. My last letter explained about Roger's parents. I'm afraid that their indifference hurts Roger." Anita felt terrible about this, but perhaps with time, it will arrange itself. So cute. It will arrange itself. "I'm longing to see you. How will it happen? How can it be done? Do you realize how much I adore you? I adore you." This is Anita's freedom with Baba. You know, just, I adore you. Oh, so sweet. So sweet. As I stated, Roger's parents are very upset over his divorce. In May of 1940, German troops crossed the border into France. On May 19th, Anita writes Baba as Roger leaves for the war front. Off he goes. Off they go. She stays in that apartment, and he goes to the war front. He's called to the war front. This is Anita's words to Baba. She writes to Baba on May 19th. I don't know where you are. She's feeling so much pressure because of the German invasion and parting from Roger. But she lays it on Baba. She lays it on Baba. I don't know where you are. I've had no word from you in months. My Baba, my deepest pain is when I feel you have abandoned me. Why should I feel so? It causes all sorts of unhappiness, especially when the world at present seems so mad. She's just there. She's waiting for the German troops to stomp into Paris. She's right there. I don't know where you are. I've already said that, sorry. So I beg you, my Baba, to give me the courage, wisdom, and love to really be a child of yours. To really be a child of yours. Oh. To really be a child of yours. Having the dignity of your love. But I need to feel I am in your heart, near you, because this loneliness of being separate from all that I love is too great to bear. She's lost Roger. She doesn't think she'll ever see him again. He's gone to the war front. Know I love you, and know whatever happens to me, your name is in my heart. These letters are, they're unbelievable. Right. Less than 2 months later, German troops march into Paris. Anita writes to Hetty Mertens and Walter Mertens on August 7th, 1940. She's turned to the Mertens. She probably fears delivery of letters to Baba with the war. It probably won't happen. When I read this letter, this is her still separate from Roger, and the Germans are about to come into Paris. This is 2 days before. I left Paris 2 days before the German army entered. It was like a miracle my leaving as I did, under tremendous difficulty. The misery I've seen, the sadness, the fear, I would not have left Paris had it not been for Roger. I did not know what was going to happen, and I did not want to be where I could not get in touch with him. She luckily went to a house not far from Paris. A friend of Roger's owned the house, so she had a sanctuary to escape to. The day I left Paris, it was like a day out of the Bible, the bleak part of the Bible. Everyone fleeing, everyone leaving. There was a huge artificial screen of black smoke over the city, and we were all black from it, just descending on the people. You've seen the pictures. They're unbelievable of the people leaving Paris. Unbelievable. Never shall I forget the misery, nor the sorrow, nor the sorrow. Oh. Quite a long passage. Perhaps time for a breather. Anyone have any questions?
Did Roger survive?
Yes, he did.
And he came here.
Yeah, and he's been to the center a couple times, I think.
Was he a soldier or a journalist?
He was, trying to remember, something to do with mapping, right, at the front.
Surveyor?
Like he had surveillance and providing maps on their intelligence where the Germans were to the commanders, and talking about, strategies to prevent from being attacked. It was I think if you read the letter, you'll hear from how difficult it was. I want to get back to her letter because it was probably one of the most gut-wrenching letters that she wrote on her departure from Paris. I didn't quite finish. And I put most of it down because it gives us a sense of, after the honeymoons in Portofino and Cannes, this is unbelievable what she has to go through. The day at the railway station, full of children, animals, soldiers, priests, women, and refugees from the north. I left everything. She just walked out of her apartment. The Germans later took over Roger's family estate in Tavernet and used it. They took it over. I don't know if I will ever see it again. My last look was Notre Dame, and that gave me a heartache. We could walk to Notre Dame probably 10 minutes or 15. And on a road, thousands of cars fleeing, the army and their materials going south. Then all the bridges were blown up. And what a night. The people are so innocent. They're strung out on the road. Rarely is there a car. These are people walking in carts and all of their belongings. I was with Roger and didn't know where he was. I thought he had been made a prisoner. After a lot of maneuvering, we found each other. Baba's handkerchief he carried next to his heart the whole time. Baba's handkerchief, can you imagine? His life is a miracle, and he was saved several times from bombardment. He came back shortly. France seceded to Germany very quickly, and Roger didn't have to stay on the war front anymore. He even had to swim a river as the bridge had been blown up to get back to her. He was getting back to the friend's house because he had told her, go there, go there. What does Baba want of us? This is Anita. We feel it is such a difficult moment, and we pray we shall not starve to death. How often we think of you, my darling, and my darling Hetty. I should adore seeing you and being near you a while. No matter what they went through in the house, in Switzerland and Zurich. This is Anita reaching out to Hetty, which is beautiful. With Paris now under German occupation, the warriors for the Villiers were trying. Anita was incarcerated in 1943 after the USA's entry into the war. Luckily, Roger was able to get her released after 6 months of captivity. He pulled strings. He was still respected in Paris, and he had connections. He had a lot of connections. Fast forward to the war's end and late 1940s. Norina and Elizabeth are both with Baba in India and continue to write supportive letters to Anita and Roger. Plans are already underway for the establishment of Mir Center on the lakes in Myrtle Beach. This is between 1945 and 1950, we are across the street is already being mapped out. 5 volumes of Baba's discourses have already been published in 1948. I love to read them. I have never read the 5 volume set, just the 3 volume set. And Baba's new residential compound, Mirazad, opens later that year. With the start of late in 1959, with the start of Baba's new life, Norina writes Anita, urging her to sign an agreement. Baba has sent out to his lovers. Norina writes Norina urges Anita to do everything that Baba asks in this letter of agreement. Do your best to live normal and harmonious. No one is admitted who is unable to sign. Everybody signed an agreement with Baba. Very sweet. It's circular. Nobody is admitted who is unable to sign this as a circular. I know you love him, so do it and act as the beloved. Your child in you was created in good and pure beauty always. Let it win over in you and for all. You know, Baba really, we see these kids, Jane and I just love seeing the kids on the center. I mean, that's really that's where we all want to be with Baba. It's just, you know, that young age, that young feeling. Tender embrace and good hug to Roger. I love you, Norina. That's an example of the women, Elizabeth and Kitty and Norina and many, many more, including the women Mandali and Merzad, always supporting Anita in her life in the world, very much in the world. Just trying to work on finding my place already. Excuse my papers, but they are important because all of the books have started on legal pads, every one of them, and then I kind of pump it into a laptop and edit as I go. The new life ends early in 1952, and Baba and his Eastern women and men Mandali plan another visit to the United States. Baba will not visit Europe or London on his way to the U.S. Although visits are planned to both vacations. I'm sorry, I'm probably missed out a little bit there, because he did make this is the 52 intro. Yes, this is the 52 visit. I was getting ahead of myself to 56. But he did, they were planning to host Baba at Tavernet and all of the Mandali, and they were busy. William was encouraging the Dawkins to get beg borers, steel mattresses, and this house is a giant that they gave up in the 1960s. But they were going to renovate, fix it up so Baba and the women Mandali and men Mandali could stay there on the return flight in 1952.
What house was this?
Tavernet was Roger's family estate, which he inherited from his father. Anita and Roger are busy preparing their country home in Tavernet, France, for Baba's planned stay on his return flight from the United States.
Did Baba go back to Europe in the 50s?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh, he was in Switzerland.
Baba and the women, and yes, he did. This is 52 visit to Europe and the United States. That he would visit on his way back in 52, but not stay in France like he planned because of his accident and injuries. So, Baba, the women and men Mandali arrive at Mare Spiritual Center April 21st, 52, and stay at the center for 1 month. Baba followers around the world are shocked in learning about his severe accident he is involved in on May 24th, en route to the West Coast. Baba, Mira, and Elizabeth recover from serious injuries in the crash and spend weeks in recovery in both Prague, Oklahoma, and Myrtle Beach. Finally, Baba and the group leave Myrtle Beach in mid-July, but the plan to visit Paris is scrapped. And Anita and Roger are asked to visit Baba and the group in London on their 5-day stop over there. So he's cutting everything short. He goes to London for a short visit. Mayor is still suffering, right?
Was Anita here So when did Anita see Baba?
She would then.
She was here.
No, 1952. No, she did not come over.
London, right?
Yes, because Baba was still visiting in London, in Europe at that point. She came in 58 because he was done with Europe.
She also saw you in Switzerland as well. 52.
Anita and Roger are again invited to visit Baba during his recovery period in Locarno, Switzerland. He stops for a short visit in Locarno. Anita recalls her feeling toward the women Mandalay and giving them a tour of the Swiss lakeside home, which is so cute, for her to imagine taking the women Mandalay out and giving them a tour. And it's a very revealing of the women Mandalay. I took them out on the streets of Locarno, but these outings didn't mean much to them. To go out to a cafe or to look at this or that, their whole being was being with Baba, their whole being. And they experienced everything by being with him. The outside world was unnecessary to the women Mandalay. Is it unnecessary to any of us? I don't think. We're Westerners, right? Living with Baba and being in that kind of vital way of being with him. This is Anita still writing. What is there to see in the outside world? They were not interested in curiosity, what for most people is a necessity. For them, their whole being was to feel the plenty, the play of sensitivity between Baba and themselves. The play of sensitivity between Baba and themselves. Since they knew and felt what Baba is, naturally, everything was reflected in him. A reflection in him of all their needs and wants, all their needs and wants. So, it's pretty sweet, really. Baba and his Mandalay leave Switzerland for India in mid-August, with Baba and Mira recovering in India later. In November, Anita exhibits her abstract work in the Hanover Gallery in London. So she is traveling, doing her art exhibits. Roger, sorry.
You have a cup of water on the table if you need.
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Did you put any of Anita's art in the book?
Yeah. That's why I needed color sections, because there's a couple of abstracts, which I couldn't put in black and white. So that's why there's color in this book, right? I just thought to do her justice. And Roger, you've got to understand his output. He exhibited every year of his life. Every year of his life in some corner of the world. From Japan to Brussels to New York. Every year. This is his output. If they had a social thing at the apartment, Roger would disappear pretty quickly down into his studio. He would hang around for a little while, leave everything to Anita. I'm gone. I got work to do. So it was cute. The Billiard's artistic life with various exhibits continues in 1953 and 1954. Baba hosts the 3 Incredible Weeks in September 54, bringing 19 Western men to India. Anita and Roger entertained 2 of these Western men, Charles Purdom and Malcolm Slosh, in Paris on the return to London and Malcolm's return to New York. They stopped to work on the book, The 3 Incredible Weeks. They stopped in Paris. I'd love to have been there. Malcolm presents Anita with a photograph of Baba bearing his signature on his Paris visit, on Malcolm's Paris visit. These are some of the treasures that Jane and I found in Anita's flat, was that wonderful photograph of Baba that Malcolm had given her personally. And he hadn't signed that many, maybe a couple hundred for people. And she got one, and there it was in the collection. Our trip to Paris, we can't even describe. It was work and play, but we were exhausted all the time, but it was so fulfilling. You have to understand that the woman that inherited everything, Anne Gideon, left everything exactly as it was when Anita died in that apartment. There's paintings against the wall, 2 or 3 deep, originals. Some of them are on eBay today, and she couldn't speak English, so Norman Reuter interpreted for us, and he would often interpret. He would listen to what Anne said to he translated a question, and then Norman would start speaking French back to me, and Jane would say, no, it's time for English, right? So it was a little bit of a confusing time, but her health was so precarious when we knew we would be called over a year ahead of time that this was going to happen, and it was sudden, wasn't it? Norman just said, you got to come now, because she had medical appointments every 2 days.
This is
And every 2 days. She inherited everything from Anita. And she's still there. And I sent a copy of her book as soon as it came off the press, and she wrote back and said, you don't know how emotional this book is to me, because she didn't know a lot about Baba. And didn't, but she knew enough about him, but not, and to see the photographs in there, and, so.
Was she a friend or a hired?
That's all covered in the book, that she came, I think she was probably almost secretly in love with Roger, because she was really drawn to his art. So she went to an exhibit one day, or one night, and what happened, there was one particular drawing that she wanted, and he said, I can never sell that. I can never sell that. And Anita heard him say that. And she said to Roger from 2 people over, oh, why don't you sell it to her? And he did. And then Anita asked her to start coming to their apartment every day at 5 o'clock. Every day at Villard's apartment at 5 o'clock. The Marc Chagall's, any artistic bums in Paris, they were there. They did this every day at 5 o'clock. And Anne didn't go, and I think 2 weeks passed, and she might have had reason to call Anita or something. Anita chastised her, said, where have you been? I said, come, you don't have to call up, just show up. And it was, then it started, and she started helping them organize exhibits and that kind of thing, right?
So Chagall heard Baba's name from.
Yeah, Chagall and Salvador Dali, Henry Miller.
They would be there.
Yeah, they were there.
Awesome.
And Picasso. Yeah, they were part of it. And the Bradleys from New York, Jenny and William, who ran a literary agency. And there was quite the social life going on at that apartment. So. Anyway, that Roger, we all know that Malcolm died as soon as he landed in New York. He died almost immediately within I think the first night he died in his hotel room after giving that photo to Anita. Baba said to everyone receiving the signed photographs, to all you meet and see, give my love. The only thing worth receiving. Oh.
Baba just wanted to give you a heads up. Maybe
Time-wise?
8 minutes or so,
Okay.
so we have time
Yeah.
for snacks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can, just to put it in a capsule, I haven't gotten through the talk, but we all, just a few highlights of 1956 was Baba's last trip to Europe. And that's one of the reasons Anita came to the center in 1958. She didn't come to the other 2 visits because he visited Europe and saw Anita. But Baba, they were feuding in London like they probably feud here often in running the Manhattan-born Center. It's just life, right? It's just life. But London was very much Delia and Charles Purdom and Will Beckett feuding a lot. And Baba might have been a little exasperated by anyway, he left them in 56 saying, I'm never coming. He said he's not coming back here. Again, it puts Mayor Baba Center very much in the forefront of how important the center is today. Really, because Europe and France and England are a little bit sleepy towards the Baba Center, I'll tell you. You know, I haven't been to both places, so it's, anyway. Any questions, or as Laura said, there's food to be had.
Oh, I do want to ask
Sure.
about Julian's painting. I'm sorry, I forget his last name, but
Lamar.
Lamar.
when I was hosting at Baba's house, we were told that Baba sat.
I'm pretty sure that's not true.
No, it is true.
You think?
I know that it's true because
Oh.
Ann Ross told me that her mother personally watched Baba.
Oh, okay, so I'm corrected, okay. I didn't know that.
There's also another account on one of the ships going to Paris. This photographer, he actually painted Baba's painting. And that painting is in the private collection somewhere in Florida.
Huh,
Can you repeat that for me?
I didn't hear it. Tony will have to.
In the mid-30s, there was a photographer based in New York, and he was sailing back to Paris, and Barbara was on that ship. And because he had photographed Barbara in New York, he befriended him, and Barbara allowed him to paint him on the ship on the way to Paris.
Wow.
And I followed it through, and I found there was some people that ran a Indian relic estate somewhere in New York State with totem poles and that, and they had it and they gave the whole collection to someone in Florida.
Huh,
And I made contact with him as well.
okay,
Wow.
you never know.
So it's like story.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody,
Thank you
for coming. There's a little bit more, but if you happen to read the book, and now there's a copy in the library, finally. I got the Christmas.
Talk to Bob
Yeah.
while he's here.
Sure.
While you're mingling, I'm curious to know more about her role as Baba's clown.
Yeah.
You'll have to read.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gidget.